Hello again, everybody, and welcome to episode 26, the Billy Williams episode of Angles and Attitudes. As always, he's John and I'm Mark. Today, we are very pleased and excited to be joined by Chicago song stylist and man about town, Tony Ocean. Tony, thanks for joining us and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it very much.
Hey, Tony.
It's a pleasure. How you guys doing today? Everybody good?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Again, thanks for joining us. Hey, you got a long storied career. We're going to jump right in. You, like so many other great American success stories, starts the core immigrant parents, right?
Correct. My parents were from Lucca, Alto Pascio. We're just from Tuscany, Italy. And I came here, and yeah, it was interesting growing up with my family the way they were. My father was teaching me English, and my mother, I already knew Italian. So breaking into a neighborhood when we finally came to Cicero from Italy to New York, then Cicero, it was a whole different world. My dad worked nights, worked for Ganella, so he was never home. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting, really was. I think I had a couple good Italian neighbors and we were growing up and we all looked out for each other. So it really kind of helped.
But that's the.
How old were you when you came here? How old were you?
When I came here?
How old were you?
I came here. I was probably about 4 or 5 when I came here.
Got it.
But see, those are those great American success stories because of family, the values, everybody looked out for everybody else. And that's the way you grew. And that's how you know who you were at your core, and you carry it with you to this day. And I think that's something we miss now. People don't want to be associated with their past or their heritage.
No, I don't know why that is. You know, growing up, my father never said, no, you have to not speak English. He said, always make sure, you don't let go of your nationality. That's why I never did. Even when my sister was born, they said, you have to learn both. But it was difficult growing up when your name is Maurizio Carrara. At that particular time, there's no short name for Maurizio. Yeah. They call you Maurice, they called you Morris. You're right. They don't. I mean, and you're getting, slack from kids in school. Meow, 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 meow. Morris the cat, because they couldn't come up with Maurice. So it was it was interesting. But I was always a big Three Stooges fan, and a couple of guys I became friends with. We used to watch them on TV after school, and the guy just started calling me Mo. And that's where Mo came from Maurizio, because that's my real name, Maurizio. But so growing up, it was very difficult in Cicero. Then when you move to Elmwood Park, then it's a little bit bigger. You're a little bit older. I wasn't never really popular in school. I was one of those kind of outcasts, kind of quiet. I didn't really come along in high school till probably senior year, but it took me a while. Yeah.
Well, that seems to be, and John and I grew up in Norwich, so we were just north, just a short drive down Harlem Avenue there, and that. So I always kid, even though my last name is not Italian, my mom's Italian, and all of my friends growing up, their last name ended in a vowel. So those were all my friends. Fazzo, Catalano, Conenna. Everybody had a vowel at the end of their name, but me. So
right.
But my mom's maiden name was.
Yeah, when we were growing up, it was cool when everybody had a vowel and all friends. But now, as we all know, sometimes you have a vowel at the end of your name. There's always some other purpose why you're making a phone call or why you're doing this. It's pretty crazy in this world. John knows too. John knows. Right. I'm sure you guys both have been through that situation.
Sure.
Especially when you go to different countries. Oh, Chicago. Italian, bang, bang.
Bang, bang.
What the hell? It's nuts. Just crazy, guys. Crazy.
Yeah. Hey, all you got to do is go to Wisconsin, right, Tony? If you got uneducated people in Wisconsin, they think right away Chicago is traffic and bang, bang, and we never want to go there.
certain parts of Wisconsin, when you go up, up north, they have that look. I mean, God, if you walk in with a nice jacket underneath your shirt, you're going into a restaurant or a bar over there, just, that's just the way you are. Cause I've had a summer home up in Eagle River, about 6 hours away. And when you first get there and you go out to these places, which are nice supper clubs, but when you walk in, it looks like they're just, that's just completely different. Either you're there they think you're there to collect money or something. It is funny. It really is when it's only 5 hours away from your home.
It's a lifetime away. So you said growing up as a kid in high school, you were kind of outcast or shy. Where did the turn come where you started singing and you got on stage? That doesn't seem to always make sense, being shy and then being out there in front of people. Or is that where you felt comfortable the most?
Well, I always wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be some sort of entertainer. I knew that. And I was in high school, I was in choir. And until I became a varsity singer, and my teacher, Mr. Geis from Open Park High School, said, "You've got the voice. I mean, I hear you singing in front, and when it's just us, can you do that in front of people in your school?"
Wow.
And in the bathroom at home, I was Mick Jagger, in the car in front of the mirror with a comb or a brush, I was Mick Jagger. And when I was playing at 16 years old in rock and roll bands, I was going into places like Charades and the Thirsty Whale at 16, and I could perform on stage, but I could not sit in the bar on my break. On my break, I had to leave and go into the car with my dad, whoever drove me to the gig. So it was just two different people. When I was not in school, when I was with my rock and guys and musicians, I was completely different.
Yeah.
But when I went in school in that different world, I knew I really didn't fit in,
Tony, was it that teacher you think that gave you that, like that oomph to say, hey, I could do this? I mean, was that a turning point for you with that teacher from Elmwood Park?
Yeah. My grandfather always sang opera. He never did it professionally, but he was always singing at different, of church functions. And he had a great voice for it. Yeah. When I went out there and doing my first show, or it was with one of the high schools where we did something like the talent show, or when I was in choir singing and people applauded, that was like, wow, I can do this. And I'm going to be 59 this year. So I do have a vague remember of the Beatles. My parents, some sort of remember them, and watching these artists up on stage. More, I want to be able to do that, because I was really not good at anything else. I was horrible in school. I had so many bad jobs, and because I was always working I have to do rehearsal. I got to go practice with my band. It was never, the school was never the number one priority. And I would try to fib and lie to my parents to get through school. Like, perfect. When my mother would call in for me, hello, si, mio figliolo Maurizio è malato. I would call in for myself, because my mother had no clue.
You did a good job.
Yeah, right. And I had, I'm going to tell you a funny story. When I was in grade school, you guys might remember, the report card used to be A, B, C, D, F. A was the best, F was bad, right? Okay. When you went to high school, 1 was bad, 4 was good. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So I used to come home with the report card. I was straight 1s. So my mother, Mauricio, say numero uno. You are number 1. No, 1 is bad. 4 was supposed to be good. So I let that go in school for 4 years, till my dad just happened to one day look at the mail and look at the 1. Oh, numero uno, huh? I mean, so it's very funny. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
John and I we come back from an athletic background, and I can see now a little bit of the connection, in the sense that we may be a certain person, but when John, when you put the equipment on, when you put the goalie pads on, that was your zone, and you became a different person in the same way that Tony up on stage with a microphone felt that that's my zone. You know, we put our equipment on, we get ready, and we get into something, and we become somebody other than ourselves, but we're real comfortable
Exactly.
there. And you get outside
You know,
of that, and maybe you're not a
that's a great
leader.
point, Mark. Yeah. And I've had conversations with Tony off the beaten path about this kind of stuff. Kind of grew up the same way as him, where like, you know, I got kind of, you know, forced into that travel business. It was really something that I didn't want to do. I, you know, wanted to get into the sports, wasn't talented enough, but, you know, I love the fact that Tony now is taking it to that next step.
Well, you know what, John? Look, entertainer, yeah, it's one thing. It's a talent. You got to go out and do it. But what you do, John, as a travel agent, you are that character. When they're coming in to see you, they're like coming into a restaurant and seeing the maitre d', or when they're going into a car dealership, they know the guy. It's like a different person. My family will tell you that during the day, I'm Mauricio, I'm Mo. 5 o'clock, when I start getting ready and put the jacket on, then the very edgy attitude, Tony Ocean comes down the
Tony
stairs.
Ocean, right?
And when you do the gig, you have to have that mentality. And then the minute I'm in the car, the gig is over, driving home, right back to the guy I was during the day, which is, I guess you have to be that way to some degree.
No, it's very true, because in social settings, people become different people too. You have one or two, a shot or something, and you kind of loosen up and you become that person. But when you're done, tomorrow, when you go back to work, you're that other person again. And
Sure.
that those elements or roles in your life, as long as you keep them appropriate, that's sometimes I think where people get into problems, where you can't be Tony Ocean if you're working a 9 to 5. When it's 5, you become Tony Ocean, but they don't need Tony Ocean at 9 o'clock if you're an accountant, and people can't make those
Right.
distinctions.
And you know what? Like I said, people, how do you do it? How do you get up and sing in front of people every day? How do you do that? It's the same job. It's just as hard. They go, I envy you. No, 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 no. I envy you that you get up at 9 to 5 every morning and you go to work and you deal with it. See, you go to some jobs like it is, some jobs you work for a company, you make your paycheck, you do your job, you know you're going to have a job, you know you're going to have a paycheck at the end of that week. As a musician, you're hunting and hunting and calling and hunting and calling and making deals. If there's no deals, there's no paycheck.
Right.
But you guys are great. That's one of those things too that people don't understand, as great as salespeople as you are, because you have to be able to package up what you do, number one, and then be able to deliver on it. There's a little bit of a similarity. John and I start doing these, right? The first guy we interviewed, Fergie Jenkins. We were absolutely, when that little thing went on and said, Fergie Jenkins is waiting to join the call, your ass cheeks just pucker and go, holy crap, there's
we were nervous wrecks.
Yeah, there's our idol. But over the course of time now, we found you got to do research on this. It's just like any other thing that you want to take a shot at. If you're not prepared, the people who you work with aren't going to appreciate that, and you're not going to do it for a long time. It's like, oh yeah, how hard could it be to interview? Well, you need to know something about the person you're interviewing. You need to be able to ask intelligent questions so that the person says, hey, we don't mind spending time with you because you guys care about, in the same way your audience knows you care about them because you prepared. And when you came out from the first song to the last song, you gave them everything that they wanted. Not, hey, long about the middle, Tony kind of takes a break and he mails a couple songs, and you never do that. And that's what people, I don't think, always understand.
Well, thank you. I appreciate, to be honest with you guys, doing it full time for 29 years, it'll be my 29th year this year. Actually, next year, next May will be actually 30 years doing it full time. And, you're working every night of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. When I was at Jilly's downtown on Rush Street, we were doing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 nights a week, just there for 15 years. And then you did your Fridays and Saturdays and whatever it was. And you miss things. Look, guys, I'm on wife number 4. I miss things.
Sure.
I miss things. I didn't care about anything but on the stage. I had no children, so it was me. I only cared about me and doing my performance and making sure that I did what I had to do. And unfortunately, sometimes when you have that mentality, you come across a little cold, you come across a little egotistical sometimes, and but I got a lot humbling as I got older.
Mhm.
You know what
We
I
all
mean? And
do.
people said, well, and I'm a kind of guy that has no filter, unfortunately. I have no filter. I say I'm like Larry David of the Italians. I just and it gets me in trouble sometimes and other times, but I rather have someone when they shake your hand. I mean, I think me and John, when he was on the show, talked about this. I think when he was on our Ocean's Pit show, I think when you see people in business, you shake their hands, they look at you, and when you walk away, they make that comment. I'd rather have somebody be right in front and say, hey, I don't like you, or I do like you, or this is it, but at least you know where we're coming from. The loud kind of guys that are out there, you know where they're coming from. There's no the quiet ones you got to worry about. And
That's
so you got to be careful out
100%.
there. You're right.
And that's,
Tony and Mark. Tony,
Yeah, go ahead, John.
when's that first moment after you did the beginnings, like the Thirsty Whales? When was that moment, T, when you said, okay, I've arrived. I can do this. When we talk about the Jillies and the nightclub and everything else, I saw you back in 88, 89 at Al's the first time, and I thought already back then you were accomplished. But what was that turning point when you knew?
To be honest with you, the stage, we're doing the rock and roll bands I had and stuff. We did like Star Search, and we did that. I still didn't know because it wasn't my calling. My calling was when we had the play downtown at Piper's Alley, and I played the part of Dean Martin in that show. And when they were sold out at 300 people a night, and Ron Onesti was the producer at the time, and we both looked at each other because Ron was getting into the music thing too at that time. And I go, wow. And then I'm leaving the job, my dad's bakery. Dad, I'm going to leave to do this. And I'm leaving, that job at that time, with $40 an hour at a bakery at Ganella Baking Company. And what? My dad said, what are you going to do? You're going to become a singer? Say un citrullo? You an idiot?
The cucumber, yeah.
Yeah. So that's when it hit me that, and after the play ended, and then you would go to these different shows and they'd be sold out. And then you're thinking, well, who else is here but me? I thought maybe to be another act. No, they're here to see you. So it kind of, and then when the job started coming in, Las Vegas 2000, even though it was only 20 years ago, when you're on that stage at the Riviera, we did that for 7 years. It's a pretty cool feeling. You look at those audience, know that they're spending money to see you. And John, when restaurants that I perform at or nightclubs or whatever, they're expensive places. If you're going out with your family you're walking out or you're spending a couple $100 just to see a guy sing in the lounge.
Yes.
So I'm very humbled at that, that people still do it. And I don't know. I think the reason why I'm surviving and as long as I'm doing it and why I get to work Wednesdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's because of my audience. My audience comes to these places, guys, Mark, John, and they're eating and they're spending money. They're drinking. They're spending $15 a martini. They're spending $12, $15 on a vodka. They're not going to Chuck E. Cheese. They're spending money. So to come out and you got to be humble at. I mean, it's tough. It's very humbling.
well, that's obviously we're all not 21 anymore by a long shot, but that's that maturity, and it's you can still be mature and humble at 59, and people respect that and appreciate that because they see that in you, that you prepare and you don't disrespect. I think that's a big piece. My son, we have a hockey company. We teach kids how to skate, and we don't disrespect the relationship between what we do and teaching the kids. In the same way, John doesn't disrespect the relationship that those people spend their hard-earned money for potentially a once-in-a-lifetime trip. John does just go, hey, throw it on the table. I'll get you some flights, and I hope you have a good time. And obviously that comes across, and your audience appreciates that and will go and see you whenever they can, whenever it's possible for them. And obviously that's a tribute to you, but the humility around that, you talk about the ego being on stage, but the bigger piece of that is your humility and understanding and respecting that.
Yeah. I mean, if there was, looking, guys, I've seen great singers that I know in the city of Chicago that have got great voices. They're great entertainers, but there's nobody in the audience. I don't know what it is. I've been around. I think people say, yeah, I've just been around a long time. I'm not better than them. I've just been I've been at the game a long time. And eventually, I think, to be honest with you, when you mention the name, sometimes people might have heard of the name more than they've actually seen the guy perform. If you say Tony Ocean, oh yeah, I remember when I first started in 89, 90, a lot of people thought I was an old man, or people still think I'm Billy Ocean. I mean, oh yeah, I got all your hit. I tell you, Walter Payton, the great Walter Payton, which from the Chicago Bears, I used to do a couple of his Christmas parties. And when he would, of course, he would joke, but he would say, ladies and gentlemen, we have the great Billy Ocean. And they all looked, wait a minute, Billy's African-American. This guy's Italian. I mean, it was a funny joke, but I guess you had to beat her, but you know what I mean? It was funny. So
yeah, and you could tell that joke back in the day too.
Yeah, right. It would have worked good back in the day. Right, exactly.
Yeah, you couldn't say that. Yeah, probably wouldn't roll as well now.
And guys, I had to learn the hard way, because even after my third, fourth, fifth CD, when things started changing a little bit with me, upsetting certain people because my mouth.
Yeah.
I put out a CD called "Pardon My Past."
Love it.
Yeah. And I went back to the 100 people, whatever I might have pissed off, and called them all individually and said, hey, sorry, that particular day I might have said that or that. I didn't have to, but I felt it was the right thing to do. And I felt better about it. It's amazing how many people came around, because when you were getting to that peak, the record was doing well. You're selling out at the Jillies thing. We just finished Las Vegas. You're hanging with certain people. Maybe too much booze, too much partying at the time. You think that you're on top of the world. And this is at my level. So you come at people a little differently.
Sure.
But it's funny. So when you learn and you stop getting calls and you start losing certain jobs and stuff, the red light goes on. Hey, you got to do something. So putting out the record and things different change. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. I tell you exactly what I've been through. There's a lot of people that would lie, or I did this, I did that. I'm an open book. And I think that's another reason why some people they enjoy that, but some people don't like that you can just be honest and say, yeah, I screwed up. You know what I mean?
Tony, there's an appreciation though for you, because, okay, let's go back to the Jilly days, the nightclub days. There's still that following. You could tell me maybe he's out of his mind. There's still that following of guys. There's still that following of women. There's still that, hey, we want to go see Tony Ocean. It's just like our friend Vito Zotto. I've seen Vito Zotto about 10 times. I've seen you about 10, 15 times. But I'm going back because I appreciate what you guys do. You guys are pounding the pavement still 20, 25 years later. And this is where I think this is the successful part of somebody like you.
Well, I appreciate that too. And then, in 2020, when everything went down, we were off of work for maybe about 6 weeks, because you guys, I don't know if you were self-employed, but when you were self-employed, our governor or our state didn't know what to do with us self-employed people. There was no money coming in when everybody else was on unemployment. See, and that's the difference between full-time entertainers and part-time entertainers who play rock star. No disrespect, but they play Fridays and Saturdays. They work all week, make their nice paycheck. They play on Fridays and Saturdays whenever they want to, but they still have that income coming in during the week. So us, like I said, we don't eat, we don't play, we don't eat. So finally the unemployment decided how they fixed it all of a sudden, and we got a little back pay. But then 2020, everything opened up. Even though a lot of things weren't open, a lot of places, John, you would probably know too, that I performed at,
Sure,
never closed. They stayed open. They put a tent. They did this. They did that. So and then we started making money again. So yeah, thank God. So I was down for a very short time during 2020, and then I got to do the little show Ocean Spit when we got 4 or 5, 6 sponsors now that sponsor the show. So everything kind of worked good in one way, but unfortunately bad with the people that lost their business and people lost lives and stuff like that.
Sure.
Question for you, Tony. You talked about, being checked. Is there somebody still that kind of says, hey, Tony, you're getting off the rails, or is it just you that at a certain point, you just know it and you look like you said, the dates aren't there, the calls that you used to get aren't there, or is there somebody else in your life that kind of bumps you back in line?
Well, that's a great question, buddy, because at the time, everybody was in that circle. See, when they're in that circle, everybody else is wrong, but us guys in the circle.
Okay.
So they were saying, yeah, don't worry about it, Tone. Don't worry, we don't need that place, Tone. We don't need that company, Tone. We don't need that person, Tone. You see, and you know what's really weird? This is stuff that happens to a little guy like me. Do you imagine if you were like huge and you screw up and people all around, let's take an example. Not that I'm comparing myself to Elvis or anything like that, but Elvis had people all around him saying, you are the greatest, you are the greatest. Here's more drugs, here's more of this, here's more of that. And the people that actually were, and the same thing with me, the same people that were saying, hey, Tone, you're screwing up here. I'd say, those are your real friends.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, you never listened to them because I was the guy.
You just wanted to hear what you wanted to hear, and those people who told you what you wanted to hear really weren't your friends. But that goes back to your comment earlier about shaking someone's hand. Just tell me right up front. And I think we get messed up and everybody's feelings get hurt. And I have to be careful because I'll start spinning off. But everybody's feelings get hurt because you tell them something that they don't want to hear. That doesn't mean I don't like you. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means I don't agree with you in terms of what you're saying there. And we get too soft now. And, John's got children in their late 20s, early 30s, and I got kids in my late 20s now. It's like, hey, it's okay to tell somebody you disagree. Just be respectful. That's all. You don't have to demean the person. Just say, you know what? I don't agree with that perspective.
Yeah. I mean, even with this whole political and everything that's going on now, guys, just because I don't like your shoes, it doesn't mean you're not one of my best friends. I mean, it's, when you think about this, we bust our chops with your friends. We bust chops all day long.
Yes.
Right? We're busting chops. And the minute you stop busting, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
It's fun. And we're not all going to get along, and there's ways of being to the point if you're respectable and try to do it. But unfortunately, these days, now I have children too, but they are my stepkids, but I don't call them my stepkids. My wife, Laura, was married once and she had 5 children. So they're with me all the time.
Well, you didn't go slowly into that kid thing, Tony, did you? You think 1, 9, 5.
Yeah,
you got your Brady bunch.
Could have had 1 or 2. No, let's go right to 5. Yeah. So, but
I'm sorry.
That's helped me. And look, I'm still learning. There are times, because remember this home has been together for all these years. I've been with them now for 4 or 5 years. So I'm still like an outsider in one way, even though I'm in there, because they have their memories. They have stuff that I wasn't there. So, and if they ever get into an argument or something, I don't say nothing unless they ask me. But if I do, I can tell them, like, especially when it comes to relationships or stuff, I can tell them what not to do. I can really help them with certain stuff, on that stuff. But it's a different world out there now. You have to be really careful what you say, what you do, and people take it so offensively.
Tony, question for you, and you're probably going to look at me, boy, he's been drinking again. In this business, and you've been around it a long time, we were talking about the people say, Tone, not this, not that. Is it hard to trust the people around you who might be maybe even thinking about guiding you the wrong way, and maybe have tried out of jealousy to guide you the wrong way?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, John, Italians, I don't know how it is with other nationalities, but we know that, okay, if I own a restaurant, you're the travel agent guy, and say, and Mark's got a repair shop, let's just say. And we're all Italian, okay?
Right.
Back in the day, let's go to Mark and get our stuff, our car fixed. Let's go by Tony to eat. Let's go by John, and we're going to get travel, and we're going to go somewhere, and we all take care of each other.
Mhm.
And if you ever notice, and I hate to say this but if one Italian sometimes does real good, the other Italians, they don't look like they're that happy for them. I don't know if it's the word jealousy, whatever it is, but
Yep.
I always use the movie Donnie Brasco. If you remember, if you watch the movie with Al Pacino, if enough people aren't familiar with the movie, Al Pacino, Johnny Depp, there's a group of guys on one side and another group of guys on the other side, from one side of town, and the other guys, but they're both from the same city. Okay. So one group goes in, they walk to the front door, they see the other guys at the end, they go, look at those assholes over there. Let's go over there and say hi. You just called them assholes, but now you're going to go over there and say hi. So I don't understand. And you're right, there was some jealous people around me, but I've been very fortunate to have people on my side right now that stop me right when they see that, the horn coming out. It's the horn coming out. And my wife is the first one to throw a rock at me or a brick.
Well, then that's true love. That's true
Yeah.
love, because she cares enough that even if
Yeah.
it pisses you off a little bit, it's still the right thing to do, and you appreciate that. And it might take a couple of hours or a day or whatever, but you know what? Yeah, you were right, and I thank you for giving a damn enough about me to
Mark,
tell me.
absolutely right, my friend. Absolutely. This is the only wife listen, I know it sounds crazy. It's not like it's a car. Most people only have one or two wives, but this particular wife, this is my fourth, and it's the best one I've ever had, and the one I've always wanted to be with. It's just that we could never hook up at the time. But the other wives are people, they were part of that group where you do whatever you want, Tone.
Mm.
I'm going to go do this. Go ahead. I'm going out. There was no, this one fights back.
Wow.
Gotcha.
This one says, oh, no, you're not, or don't do that, or you're going to get in trouble. There you go. It's like, which is
It's yeah.
great.
But
Which is
also
really
give
good.
yourself some credit, because you're probably the best Tony you've been in a long time too. So what you brought was better than maybe some of those other ones. So
Yeah, I've definitely became a better Tony. Absolutely. Absolutely. But, I still have my moments. Of course, sometimes I do still have my moments, but
so
a
bad
lot of
Tony
people-
comes out.
Yeah, a lot of people might remember me as the old Tony, and they'll still remember me as that old guy, the jerk, the whatchamacall, whatever. It wasn't nice to me. I didn't shake the hand long enough, or I didn't. I don't know what it is. I'm just. It's a tough business. I'm just happy and humbled that I'm still doing it. And right now we're booked into January of 2022 already.
Good on you.
So I'm fortunate. I really am.
Hey, I want a lighter subject. I referred to you as a stylist, and one of the things that I love about Dean Martin and Sinatra and all those guys, you can go to YouTube and they will have The Way You Look Tonight or Come Fly With Me or one of those old favorites, and you can listen to it 4 different times with 4 different arrangements. That's what I find so entertaining or amazing about that group of guys that you sing and talk about as far as your performances are concerned.
Well, yeah, especially Sinatra, when you starts off with, he had Count Basie, he had Billy May, Nelson Riddle. So they all gave him every album was a little different. He would re-record songs all the time. And that was fantastic about Frank Sinatra. You can come see me at a show with me and one other guy, and I sound like this. And then you might come to a casino or a fest on that day, and it sounds completely different. And that's just something at my level. But what's helping now, good and bad, there's musicians where these backing tracks that musicians are using, whether it's small end guys like us, local guys who, or the big stars out there, most of the time, those things are all programmed, and now everything is starting to sound. If you see them on Friday like this, they're going to sound the same way on Saturday.
Yeah.
A lot of some of these singers that are popular now can't sing like they used to, so they have to lower the keys, and things do change. And that's just technology. That's just the way it is. So yeah, back then, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Bobby Darin,
Hey, Darren.
Tom Jones used to take different songs and do like 9 different versions.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Davis Jr. because he was bored when they were doing these shows in Las Vegas, and sometimes I do change them around, and sometimes I change the lyrics on purpose, because I remember a few times when I started, I would go from Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, then I would go into Rod Stewart, and they go, wait a minute, you're lip syncing. How do you go from Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin to Rod Stewart? I mean, he's all raspy and gargly. Well, the Rod Stewart is my real voice, because I started singing with the rock and roll stuff. So once they start singing along, you change the words a bit. Now they know you're not lip syncing, because wait a minute, So yeah, I mean, it's much different talent back then than it is now. It's easier now, I think. Maybe not to make it, but to do the shows. There's more tools.
Mm-hmm.
They have those big monitors now in front of you. The big stars have the words, the lyrics, just in case Mick Jagger forgets a lyric, or Steve Tyler from Aerosmith. They all have those things all over the place. So it's a lot easier now than it was 25, 40, 50 years ago.
Sure.
So why is it like the crooners, Harry Connick and Michael Bublé and those type of guys. Now, at what point did that kind of fade away, when it stopped being cool to listen to those guys and be able to appreciate and understand and hear a song and hear the lyrics and hear what's going on behind it? With all due respect to, your rock and roll roots as well, there would seem to be still that room that we could. My daughter just got married, and John's daughter is going to get married soon, and the battle for the DJ booth, right? Mom and dad want stuff that you can dance to and you can be close and you remember the words and you can kind of sing into your wife's ear, no matter how bad you are at a certain point. You're Sinatra or whomever, and that's like the kids now are like, I don't want any of that.
No, you're right about that. And that's one good thing. There's a lot of bands out there that you can hire them and they'll give you everything you want. They'll give you the Sinatra, they'll give you the Lady Gaga, they'll give you the Justin Timberstein, they'll give you the country. There's a lot of bands out there that are formed and they come together purposely for the corporate parties, for the wedding circuit, purposely for that. When I get hired for a wedding, and we do about 50 a year, we used to do a hell of a lot more. We used to do like 300-400 weddings a year. And I think at that time, the only reason why we were getting all the work is because our contract, and you're going to laugh, but our contract gave you a free divorce party. We threw that in the package. And you'd be surprised how many free divorce parties we had to do. Anyway, but with doing now, what they do is they hire me to cocktail hour. So I come in, Tony Ocean comes in for the cocktail hour, and I'll do the Sinatra, Dean Martin stuff. And it helps. And this is how this works, because the wedding gets that crooning stuff while the guys are eating their dinner. The people, the guests are eating their dinner. They get that kind of music. And then I can leave and go do another gig at 9 o'clock. And then they have their band come in or their DJ come in and play the music for the younger generation. So I get hired for christenings. John, I get hired for Italian christenings. Christenings. It's not for the baby. The baby's not even what? It's just born. It's for the audience. I mean, it's for the mom.
Kid's gonna be an opera singer after hearing you. The kid's gonna be an opera singer after.
Yeah.
Do you prefer the private, or do you like still doing the events that you do?
I like being in front of a live audience when they're having a few pops and having a good time.
It's
that
your
private
style,
stuff is great, but you have to just make sure that the guy who's having a birthday or the person that's getting married, you got to make sure that you're right on, and you got to give them what they want, and that's very, very important.
Sure.
Because they're paying you for the service. But there nothing beats in front of a live audience. They asked Louis Prima, and we're all familiar with the great Louis Prima. He was so popular in Las Vegas. They said, we'd like to have you play the big stage where Frank Sinatra plays, where Dean Martin's. And Louis said, no, I don't want that. Then I'm not close to the people. I need to be in front of the people. And that's why he stayed in the lounge all his whole life. That's Louis Prima with hit records and everything. He never left the little room.
Wow.
So you draw energy off the crowd, obviously, and it goes back and forth and people feel it. Has there been one of those moments where the crowd and you were just like, holy crap, Tony, what am I going to do to pull this one out?
All the time. It happens a lot in new places sometimes. And it's not like they don't, you got to learn how to read the crowd. And it's important. And it's amazing. Like your third, fourth, fifth song, certain spots, depends if it's more of a restaurant where they're eating, then they're trying to eat and talk. See, back in the day, they would come and see the entertainer. Now you're at the restaurant and the plus is the Tony's there or Vito's there, but the steak and the pasta, it's just like in Las Vegas, it used to be just say John Bon Jovi on the main stage. And now it's salad buffet, $9.99 up on the marquee.
Right.
And Bon Jovi's down here. Right. I mean, that's it's just, and in Chicago, guys, and you guys would know because you grew up here, you've been here. It always used to be the main act. Giannotti's on the marquee, Jill, whatever it was, Tony Ocean tonight, whoever was playing, until the Chicago Bulls started winning championships. Because if you guys remember, nobody cared about Chicago sports because there was no champions.
Right.
For years, there was no White Sox champion, no Cubs, no Bears. Bears only won in '85. Yeah. So when the Bulls started winning, now all of a sudden, I would get days, I would go to work, Giannotti's, when the playoffs are on. Here's your money, go home. If I have a steady on Wednesdays, but the Bulls are in game 6.
Right, exactly.
Take your money and go home. Wow. And now sports became the thing.
The number one. The drought was over, right? The drought was over.
Right.
Well, other than the White Sox, I don't think you're going to have any trouble with that for the relatively near future, Tony.
You're going to be working a lot, team.
Well, guys, look, I'm not a, and that's, I'm not a Sox, Bears, Bulls. I'm a diehard Yankee fan, diehard Rangers fan, diehard New York Giants fan. So, and people, look, I'm happy for the city of Chicago, but sometimes, and some of the fans, I think we talked about this before in certain teams, if you think about it. I mean, the Cubs, they won one World Champion, and everything they do, it never seems like it's for the audience. Those people come and spend money. They bring their kids, the hot dogs, programs, T-shirts, jerseys, and they don't try to put a winning team. And that's why I think the Yankees get so much slack. They might not win every year, but they're always in the game. And that's what I mean. So,
well, you got to be a happy guy. Anthony Rizzo, I couldn't be happier. He looks good in pinstripes. Riz, I hope the best for him, especially with the Yankees. I've actually kind of quasi become a Yankee fan just because you have to respect everything about it, right? They don't go and get crazy uniforms. It's the pinstripes, and that's it. Right. And we are who we are. The Yankees, the Dodgers, and that's it.
I felt bad for the Cubs because you got rid of the face. You got rid of the face of the Cubs. You got rid of Anthony Rizzo. And I mean, it was so bad they even got rid of, the Sox even got Ronnie Woo Woo in the trade. I mean, and I was on my show today, John, you guys would appreciate this. Yeah, wait. You guys would appreciate this. If the Cubs are 6th, I'm sorry, 8th in attendance in all of Major League Baseball. They're 8th. The White Sox are 16th. White Sox have a winning season almost every year, right? And the Cubs don't have a winning season. They haven't for a while, right? And they're still number 6 with ticket sales.
It's the neighborhood and the ballpark, right? Because you're pretty lubricated before you walk in. You watch 3 innings.
Mark,
Go ahead,
I'm
John.
thinking I'm gonna give Tony here a little bit of rap.
Okay. His contract is up. He only said he was playing for 45 minutes. He's got 2 extra songs, so we get no encore today. So go ahead, John.
Tone, you know what? I mean, I never thought this interview was going to go the way it was going to go here tonight. I've learned more about you now tonight and the history of your life and what you know about so many entertainers. I have to tell you this. The last couple of years of following you, and I've known you now for basically 30, you're pounding the pavement, I think, harder than you ever had before. I love the show during the week. I know Mark has glanced at it himself. To do that show every day, me and Mark are up to basically twice a week on getting interviews, but to do that show every day for 1 hour a day is amazing. Let me tell you something. The people still want you at these venues. I go to places. No, we can't go out tonight. We're going to go see Tony Ocean. I have to tell you, and I know Mark loves his Sinatra things. You're doing a fantastic job. I think you're more popular now than when I first met you. And I want to thank you for coming on Angles and Attitudes with my good grammar school friend here, Mark. We truly appreciate it. We are so excited when you said yes. This was truly an honor. I mean, as long, I've never told you that in 30 years, so now I'm going to give you the compliment. But, I hope everybody hears it.
Guys, I appreciate it. First of all, I love the name of the name is fantastic. If you don't put t-shirts, name on those t-shirts and cups, that is an incredible name. I love the name of the show. And you know what, guys? It's just that I think as you just grow older, you get wiser. And sometimes I think it just takes people a little longer than most. Or it takes people a little longer to admit, because I know people to this day that still won't, I didn't do that, or I didn't do that. Yeah, I did that, or I did screw up, I did that. So I'm just, but if it's not for my fans, if it ain't for the people that come out, I don't know what I would be doing. And you know what, guys, to leave you with this last thing, COVID-19 2020, when everybody was staying at the homes and were afraid to leave the house, the restaurants that were open, the ones that had tents or backyards or whatever they did, when I played, they were still packed. So to me, I was humble and honored in that. And my audience is, like John knows, we start at what, 45, 50 and up. And the older people were coming out and the younger people were staying home. It was like, I was like, wow. It was it's very humbling. It really is. And hey, we just got to keep going for what we do. John, you've been doing your job a long time. I remember when my grandfather had Multicatini shoes on Harlem Avenue. I know there was a Venus, the travel thing right around that area at the same time. So, we're going to have our ups and downs. We're going to keep going, but right now we all need to come together somehow.
Sure.
And let's just hope for the best for everybody.
For sure.
We appreciate that, Tony. And you're going to see us in the front row really soon.
You know what? I appreciate what you guys do. Congratulations on your new show. God bless you. Do what you're doing. Peace, man. Thank you guys.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks, Tony.
And best to that lovely lady, Laura. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Arrivederci. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
God bless.
Thanks, T.
Be good.
Bye-bye.